Hi, my name is Shruti.
I'm Abhishek.
And I'm Navneet, and we are IndSciComm. We bring you a new podcast series where we will profile enthusiastic students, scientists, and science communicators. Each of them will talk about who they are, what they do now, how they got here, and a cool scientific concept. We call this a Soupçon of SciComm.
And today we have somebody who is many things, including a geomorphologist. If we don't know what that means, of course, listen on to find out. And so, without further ado, question number 1: who are you and what do you do?
Hi, Shruti. I'm glad to be here on your soupçon, it seems, of SciComm. I'm Devayani Khare.
Mm-hmm.
I'm currently based in Fort Kochi.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, as you rightly said, I'm a geomorphologist. I studied landscape changes when I was in college at master's level.
Nice.
After which I started working in on a project which was the India Biodiversity Portal,
Uh-huh.
which was a citizen science repository as well as a repository for all kinds of data. And my main focus was the Western Ghats biodiversity system, basically a mini portal on that.
Excellent.
I have an interest in ecology, cartography, ornithology, and I love traveling. So
this is the second time I've had somebody on Soupçon of SciComm who says they love cartography. The first one was actually Vaishali Rawat, and we had a lovely time talking about how we grew up in school, talking about atlases and talking about how we would just sit with atlases forever, and how geography was so boring in school, but actually is very, very interesting as a subject. Let's get on to question number 2. How did you get where you are right now?
that's a little complicated because, in fact, where I am right now, I work as a communications manager for a travel company,
Uh-huh.
which is a far cry from my academic qualifications. So I started blogging in college to make a bit of extra money.
Mm-hmm.
And during the time when, after my qualifications, when in India people did not understand what geomorphology and ecology was,
Mm-hmm.
so I was finding it very difficult to get a job after my master's.
Mm-hmm.
So during those months, I made a little bit of money on the side by blogging. And after a couple of research projects and this India Biodiversity Portal, I found myself being roped into a travel company to continue with their communications. So,
if I may ask, what did you end up doing for your bachelor's? And can you sort of chart a small story for us as to how you went from bachelor's to master's and where you are right now?
well, I surprisingly thought I would choose psychology at my bachelor's level for graduation. But I don't know, at some point in time, I decided other people's problems were not quite my thing. So I moved into geography. And after I moved into geography, I think thankfully we had a really fascinating syllabus during the second year,
Mm-hmm.
which focused largely on geomorphology. So everything to do with tectonics and landscape changes, volcanoes, everything. I think would fascinate a lot of kids if it was dealt with a little differently at the school level.
Mm-hmm.
And I just found myself saying that maybe I need to move in towards that as a subject. So I ended up changing my college and following geomorphology, which I feel was a fascinatingly nerdy, geeky subject, perfect for someone like me.
Wow. So was this a bachelor's in geomorphology or was it a bachelor's in geology?
Geography, actually, and I finished it from arts, which is not something you find very often in India.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I finished my graduation in the arts as geography only, and then at the master's level, it was still Masters of Arts in Geography with the specialization in geomorphology.
Which university was this?
Pune University.
Oh, excellent. Okay, I didn't know they classified geography as arts. That's a very interesting aspect.
Yeah. The fun part is this particular course for geomorphology, in fact, allowed students to come in from both streams, arts and science.
Mm-hmm.
Ultimately, master's was either like a master's in arts or master's of science based on what your graduation was. So it was an interdisciplinary. I think all of us got churned out the same way at the master's level eventually.
So, question number 3. Imagine you have the power to go back in time to when you were in high school or undergrad. Can you pick and explain one concept to your younger self that you think is the coolest, most important, or most awesome in your field?
Wow, okay, that's a little tricky, but I think I'll go along with citizen science, or what they call public participation in scientific research. PPSR. I think it's a really democratic field of science, which basically tries to get data or tries to get reports on any topic from people across the world.
Wow.
And it's a platform where newbies, amateurs, professionals, researchers, all kinds of people can interact, can put their data together, can put in their observations from across the world to kind of get a broader understanding of any one topic.
Wow.
And I think it's a field that's going to change and has already changed, is going to revolutionize science.
Excellent. So is PTSR only specific to geography or geographical fields, or do you see it in almost every field?
It is definitely possible in every field, but geography seems to lend it a dimension. And no matter what your topic is, it could be civic issues, it could be ecology, it could be Alzheimer's, it could be, these days there are citizen science projects happening on most any topic. What geography gives it is a spatial dimension to collect data or statistics from species records from different parts of the world, but to actually have them projected spatially to be put onto a map so that we know exactly where that understanding is coming from.
If you're interested in something like citizen science, a really cool website to check out would be zooniverse.com. That's linked under this podcast. It has many examples of projects, not just in science, but across disciplines like art, in climate, in history, in language, in literature, and so on. It's definitely a worthwhile resource to check out if you're really interested in citizen science. Much closer to home, there is something called a Season Watch. You can access this by going to seasonwatch.in. It's run by the National Center of Biological Sciences, and they look at how trees and foliage and how plants change with season and with climate change. So you can actually go out and document changes in leaf color and changes in the trees that you see every day around you. An example of a citizen science project that's much closer to my interests is called iWire, which is a game that you play to reconstruct neurons in 3D. And I would highly recommend it. You can play as characters, and it's a really interactive and very fun game. And at the end of it all, you're actually helping scientists by helping reconstruct neurons, real neurons in 3D. And not only will you be learning more about neurons themselves, but you will actually be contributing to neuroscience. For people who are not so interested in biology or something closer to home, there is always SETI at home. SETI is the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, and it's a scientific area whose goal is to detect intelligent life outside Earth. One approach, known as radio SETI, uses radio telescopes to listen for narrow bandwidth radio signals from space. And radio telescope signals consist primarily of noise, which includes man-made signals such as TV stations, radars, and satellites. Modern radio SETI projects analyze the data digitally, and more computing power enables searches to cover greater frequency ranges with more sensitivity. Radio SETI, therefore, has an insatiable appetite for computing power. And in 1995, David Gedai proposed doing radio SETI using a virtual supercomputer composed of a large number of internet-connected computers. And thus, that's how SETI at home was born. And you can be a part of this project by volunteering your computer's time on the internet to be devoted to analyzing this radio frequency data. Wow, that is really fascinating. Have you been part of any citizen science projects?
Yes, so India Biodiversity Portal had a citizen science proponent,
wow,
which we actively involved in promoting. And the fun part was we provided the technology to any other initiative that was willing to rope in, because ultimately it's about participation. You need to get your kind of geeks participating on birds or trees and things like that. So we provide the technology platform to everybody to use as they saw fit. We've been gleaning a lot of data from that, and now it's all about trying to make sense of the stupendous quantities of data.
That sounds great. Yeah. Can you give us an example of one of these projects?
The Biodiversity Portal collected species distribution data from across India, and put it together on a spatial platform, like on a map. So you could literally search by kingfishers across India and kind of see how many people have sighted kingfishers in which areas. And you could record fun field notes, put up images so that other people could help you out. So even if you don't know the name of a particular species, chances are that somebody in the wider community would be able to help you out. So in a way, it also becomes a platform to learn. You put up a butterfly that you absolutely have no idea about, and then somebody from the community tells you, okay, it's this particular species, it's usually seen in these kind of habitats and stuff. So it's a great way to broaden your knowledge as well.
That's great. Along with being a repository of information, I can see this, being such a great resource for kids and even adults who are not very ecologically aware but sort of getting into the field. And when you get into a new field, it's always you're a little lost, you don't know who to ask for help. Wikipedia can only help you so much. And these portals seem like a great idea to sort of stimulate generation of birders, of wildlife watchers, and of ecology fans. That sounds wonderful. That sounds really nice.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, and I really hope it picks up. One of the biggest projects globally, in fact, was also something called the Galaxy Zoo, which let out a lot of these Hubble telescope photographs for people to classify, because the computers again can do only so much.
Right.
So you can imagine, as a little kid, I think everyone fantasized about going out into space.
Oh, of course.
I know. You could have access to all these phenomenal photos that the Hubble telescope had taken for years and didn't have time to really classify, just being opened out to the public so that they could look at it, drool over it, and ultimately classify it. So.
No, not just drool over it, but also learn something from it. I think that's like the best aspect of being a nerd or a geek.
Yep. Yes.
Excellent. I'm afraid that's all we have for now. I wish we could keep talking more, but this definitely encourages me to talk to more people like you to make longer, more detailed podcasts about things that you are interested in, about subjects that are so interesting. So thank you very, very much, Devayani.
Great. Thank you, Shruti. Happy to be a part of this. And I really hope people find some inspiration in this and can participate in citizen science.
And thank you to our audience for listening to us. Definitely keep an eye out for more of Soupçon of SciComm mini podcasts. I'll be putting one out every week, every Thursday. Please keep an eye out for really interesting science explained in really fun ways.